Okay, beautiful students, thanks for hanging in with me. I know this isn't the most riveting review, but we only have 2 more scenes left, and we will be finished with Act 1 or Action 1, which covers the exposition of the story. Now, at this point, we've been introduced to most of the characters or the main players, but there is one more that we haven't been introduced to, and specifically Romeo's best friend, Mercutio. Now, in this scene, it is later in the evening, and they're on the way to the party at the Capulet house. And because it is a mask or a masquerade, everyone's going to be wearing some sort of mask where no one can see who is behind the mask. So, a perfect situation for Romeo, his friends, to actually go to the party. Now, when the scene begins, they're all together, basically like what we would consider a pre-party. Everyone gathers at one place before you head to your final destination. And Romeo, as we enter into this scene, is worried, about showing up at the Capulet's house unannounced. And Benvolio says, announcing yourself is out of time. It's a manner or a a concession you don't have to give before you come to a party. And Romeo says, well, I'm not for this, right? I'm very heavy, but even though I'm heavy, I will bear the light. And this was the example of the pun from your text analysis worksheet, where it's a play on the word light, right? He's using light as something that guides by fire, but also he talks about that he is heavy. And so he plays on the word light, not only meaning something that shines, but also something that holds weight or has the lack of it. And Mercutio, his first words, "Nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance." Right here, the part that Mercutio is going to play in Romeo's life. And that's really to get him to move and do things that maybe he doesn't necessarily want to do. And Romeo says, no, I have a soul of lead, so stakes me to the ground, I cannot move. Right, so he's very heavy, right? He doesn't want to go. And Mercutio says, nonsense, right? You are a lover. Borrow his wings and soar with them, right? So again, another allusion to the Cupid. But we also get a picture or indirect characterization of Romeo when Mercutio calls him a lover. We obviously know from this comment that maybe Romeo has had other loves previous to Rosaline. And again, carrying the illusion of Cupid onto their conversation. And when Romeo goes back into this idea about how love is not a tender thing, instead it pricks like a thorn, Mercutio's reaction is, if love is rough with you, then be rough with love, right? Beat love down, which anyone who's ever felt love knows that it just doesn't go away, right? Love is definitely eternal, whether it's love for your family, love for your pets, or love for a significant other. You get an idea of Mercutio's character here, where he doesn't really truly understand what love is. And he says specifically the reason why, right? He doesn't want to wear the mask. What does he care if people see how he looks? And if he's deformed, right, he may not be necessarily the most eligible bachelor because of that. Romeo still is being very, very sad. He doesn't want to go. Mercutio's, trying to get him to go. And Romeo's really worried about going to this party. And one of the reasons why is because of a dream. Now, this idea of dreams is a motif. Some people believe that dreams do come true. Things that you actually dream about do happen, and some believe that they don't. And Romeo is on this side, that when you dream, you do dream things true. But then Mercutio tries to tell him, oh, no, 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 no. And he goes into his famous speech about Queen Mab. Now, the Queen Mab speech is something we'll look at in detail when you guys get back from break. But Queen Mab basically represents dreams. Okay? And in this part of the speech, Mercutio talks about how very, very tiny she is. And if you think about her driver being a gray-coated gnat or a fruit fly that incessantly drives you nuts, you get the idea of her size. She's very, very tiny. And then he talks about her chariot and what that's made of. But this next part is pretty important, where he talks about what she does. And all the way down here, right? All of this information talks about that she basically gives dreams that people want. So basically, dreams come from your own desires. And he says, but this very Mab can plait the manes of horses, or basically rat the hair, or knot the hair of horses in the middle of the night, right? And she's the one who makes maids lie on their back and presses them and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. Or basically, she's the one that tortures women with labor pains. And then he's interrupted because look at this monologue. I mean, it goes on for lines and lines. And Romeo's like, peace, peace, like chill out, Mercutio. You went off on a rant, right? You're talking about nothing. But Mercutio makes his points. True, I talk of dreams, which are children of an idle brain, right? An idle brain. Think of a car idling. It doesn't do anything. So when you're bored, right, you come up with dreams. You think too much. It's vain fantasy. It's as thin of a substance as the air, right? So dreams, in and out, more inconstant than the wind, right? And basically, Benvolio snaps them out of their conversation and says, we need to go to the party. And Romeo comments, I fear about this party. There's going to be some consequence. And again, notice the reference to stars, or what we see as fate. It shall bitterly begin his fearful date. Now notice, the consequence and his have been personified, given power, human power. He will expire the term of a despised life, closed in my breast, so someone who's deep in his heart. And what's going to happen, there's going to be some vile forfeit of untimely death. Right? He fears that someone he loves will die too quickly. But, and notice the shift here, Romeo says, he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail. So even though he fears the consequence, he goes anyway. It's a really good lesson in peer pressure. If Romeo would have just stayed home, right?